Do you ever wonder why aren't your graphite pencil drawings getting better? And what can you do to make that happen? Hello everyone, my name is Dragos Pepina, and in today's video I'm going to share 12 amazing tips that helped me a lot in my journey with graphite pencils and which will help you as well in yours. I'm going to take each one of these tips individually and break them down to see how they can help us transition from the beginner stage to a more advanced one. First of all, I want to mention that I used Staedtler Lumograph Mars Black, which are almost identical to graphite pencils, the only difference being that they have a large amount of carbon in the lid, giving it a matte effect. The main reason for using them was to avoid the graphite shine when shooting the video for you to see better what I'm doing. Other than that, these tips are specifically made for graphite pencils. The first tip is to avoid smudging the drawing using a piece of paper under your hand. Naturally, our skin produces an oil called sebum to help and protect our skin, which for artists can be a problem because it can smudge the drawing very quickly if we are not being careful. The pigment of the pencil will definitely be spread by the hand and will be scattered everywhere it will reach, making in the end a lot of marks. Some of them fortunately being easier to erase, some of them harder, but wouldn't be better not to waste time removing them? The best thing to do to avoid smudging is to put a plain printing paper under your hand to have a barrier between the two surfaces. This will keep the outer part of the hand and the little finger always clean, as these two areas are usually the ones we lean on when drawing. Another important point to consider is to move the piece of paper according to the area we are working on and not to drag it, but to pick it up and move it to the desired place. Tip number 2 is to turn the drawing upside down from time to time to check the accuracy of your proportions. Most of the mistakes are often not seen when working at a normal angle. If something doesn't look right with your drawing, or you notice that one eye isn't at the same level with the other one, and you've tried everything possible to fix it but it's still not right in the end, simply turn the drawing upside down. This will make your brain see the whole drawing at an angle it is not used to, noticing mistakes and misalignments better. Tip number 3 is to use a sandpaper block to sharpen your pencils. These pads are made specially for pencils. They are small, have lots of layers and are very handy to use. All you have to do is to hold the pencil and rub it on the sandpaper surface. Keep in mind to keep rotating it, otherwise you'll sharpen only one side. You can apply this method until the tip is no longer sharpenable. Try to rub the pencil as much as possible on the middle of the sandpaper pad to avoid dropping the pencil pigment and spreading it everywhere. One great thing about these pads is that they have multiple layers. When one layer has worn off, all you have to do is to tear it off and you have a brand new surface to sharpen the pencil on. As you can see, the end result is a very sharp tip, perfect for fine details. Tip number 4 is to rotate your pencil to keep a sharp point. This is the quickest and most effective way to keep the pencil tip constantly sharp, always ready for the finest details. This way, you save a lot of time and money, because with each sharpening, the pencil gets smaller and a lot of it is lost. Besides that, you are always ready for the smallest and finest details without much effort. It took me a while to turn this tip into an automatic reflex, but now I don't even have to think about it before. My hand has simply been used to keep doing this move for me, which will surely happen to you after a while. Tip number 5 is to observe better the values of shades and tones. Practice them in the form of a chart. When you're just starting out a drawing, the difference between tones can be harder to detect, especially if they are blended together. By taking each one of them separately and arranging them in a chart from lightest to the darkest, it will be easier for you to see the differences and to practice them as well. You can also work on a particular shade as many times as you like without having to do them all. In my demonstration, I made 6 squares that I filled with one shade each, from light to dark, blending each one of them with a makeup brush to give them a softer look. They all have been done with the same pencil, everything here depending only on the pressure on the pencil. It's really very simple. The harder you press, the more pigment will be added to the paper, so to get a light shade, press lightly, and if you want to get a darker result, press as hard as you can but carefully without breaking the tip or damaging the paper. The tip number 6 is to create a gradual blending. By gradual blending I mean an application of tones from very dark to extremely light with a smooth transition in between. This tip is very useful when we want to create something as realistic as possible. To simplify things, I advise you to practice this blending in the form of a rectangle or a sphere, starting from dark to light, trying to make a smooth transition between the tones. As in the previous tip, in order to have a dark tone, press as hard as possible, and towards the light area, touch the paper with the pencil as little as possible. For a smoother blending, you can use a blending stump or a makeup brush to spread the pigment evenly, then go back with the pencil over, repeating the process until you reach the desired tone. The seventh tip is to avoid using strokes only in one direction and to add circular motions in your hand movement also when using blending stump or brushes. Of course, one-way movements are great for some textures, but to draw something more realistic, we need more types of textures and automatically more types of movements. The one I'm going to talk about now is the circular one. This is ideal when preparing an area to be blended out, especially with a blending stump. The circular motion will push the pencil pigment evenly onto the surface of the paper, also resulting in an even blending, therefore the smooth effect. The tip number 8 is to stay away from using a dark pencil too early. Resort to it as one of the last steps of creating shadows. The best way is to start from light to dark, as I will demonstrate in this video. Doing this will give us the time to decide how dark to go without realizing later on that we applied a shade too dark, making it impossible to erase. Building our way up will also give plenty of opportunities to correct some mistakes in time. For example, if in this cat drawing one of the first strands was done crookedly and ruined the whole area, I would have the opportunity to correct and redo it, as I didn't go for the darkest shade instantly, the pencil pigment being much easier to erase in the initial layers. Tip 9 is to use a kneaded eraser to create highlights. The kneaded eraser is made of a gray or white pliable material such as rubber and resembles chewing gum. It functions by absorbing and picking up the graphite particles. It doesn't wear away nor leave behind eraser residue, so it lasts much longer than the other erasers. First of all, dab, don't rub when you're using the kneaded eraser. If you erase by rubbing it on the paper, you will have great difficulty in maintaining a concrete shape of it, because for very small details, you will need to shape it by giving it a very small and fine tip shape, plus it won't work as it will stick to the paper. On the other hand, if you use the tapping movement, the shape will remain intact. For this method to work, the paper needs to have enough pigment to be lifted and create a detail effect. In my opinion, this eraser should be in every graphite artist's must-have supplies list. The tip number 10 is to use a pen eraser as well, alongside the kneaded one for most of your highlights. A pen eraser is literally what the name itself says, an eraser made in the shape of a pen. I use the one called Tombow Mono Zero Eraser. Unlike the kneaded eraser, this one is very hard with a thin tip, this shape being ideal for small details. It doesn't require a lot of pressure to remove the graphite and leaves behind a very strong highlight. What can sometimes be irritating is that it leaves behind a bit of residue which can stand in the way, but I have an extra tip to fix that. Which in no way should be done is to erase it by running your fingers over the area. If you do that, you risk to smudge parts of the drawing. Instead, take the kneaded eraser and dab it easily over the area. All that residue will stick to it and it will be gone fast and not with much effort. Tip number 11 is to use a white gel pen for the very strong highlighted areas. This pen is not archival, which means it will get yellow in time. I keep saying that every time I use it in one of my videos because it is very important for people that sell the artworks. The gel pen is great for giving that extra shine to the eyes or to create a wet effect in pet noses that will bring the whole drawing to life. If you use it on a very dark area where a lot of graphite has been applied, be sure to check the tip of the pen after each application, as sometimes the pigment can stick to it and can be transferred to another area of the drawing where the pen will be used, ending up by making an unwanted mark. The tip number 12 is, when the artwork is completed, clean carefully around it with a kneaded eraser without touching parts of the drawing. Because sometimes we can make mistakes accidentally and create some marks around the drawing by transferring the pigment from our hand onto the paper, It is best to go over the background in the end with a kneaded eraser to remove all those imperfections. Keep in mind that this works only for a white background. Don't apply it if you created a blurry or bokeh effect background, because of course you will erase it. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to see more videos, please subscribe to my channel and press the bell button as well. I'm posting a new video each week, and I really hope I'm going to see you in the next one as well. Bye everybody!